Consider something we rarely stop to examine. You already know that chronic stress, persistent worry, and negative thinking can take a measurable toll on your physical health. Physicians have acknowledged this connection for decades. But here's the question we seldom ask, and even more seldom answer. If your thoughts can harm your body, can your thoughts also heal it? Could it be that the most powerful medicine you will ever take is not something you swallow, but something you think? This is not metaphor. This is physiology. And what it reveals about the hidden connection between your inner world and your physical well-being may be the most overlooked factor in healthy aging. There is a reason we have avoided this conversation. Today, we are going to have it anyway. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The hidden connection, how your inner world shapes your health, your relationships, and your future. Understanding the mind-body connection. For decades, medical science has acknowledged that negative thoughts and emotional states can have measurable adverse effects on physical health. Chronic stress, anxiety, and depression are now recognized as contributors to cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, digestive disorders, and accelerated aging. The physiological pathways are well documented. Stress hormones like cortisol, when chronically elevated, create inflammation throughout the body. Inflammatory markers then contribute to everything from arterial plaque formation to insulin resistance. What receives far less attention, however, is the corollary to this truth. If negative thoughts can harm the body, then positive thoughts, properly understood and genuinely cultivated, can heal it. This is not merely wishful thinking or New Age mysticism. It is the logical extension of established psychoneuroimmunology. The same pathways that transmit harm can transmit healing. The same nervous system that carries stress signals can carry signals of safety, connection, and well-being. This mind-body connection operates through multiple mechanisms. Neurotransmitters and neuropeptides, the chemical messengers of the brain, are also received by immune cells. When you experience genuine feelings of love, gratitude, or peace, your body produces different chemical cascades than when you experience fear, anger, or shame. Your immune system literally functions differently depending on your emotional state. Your healing capacity is either supported or suppressed by your inner dialogue. The implications of this are profound and largely unexplored in conventional medicine. If we accept that mental states influence physical outcomes, then addressing mental and emotional health becomes not an optional luxury, but a foundational component of any comprehensive approach to physical well-being. Going upstream to address the source of illness means examining what is happening in the mind long before physical symptoms manifest. The nature of self-talk, where healing begins. Most adults carry on a constant internal conversation. This inner voice narrates experience, evaluates performance, and assigns meaning to events. For the majority of people, this internal dialogue is far more critical than anything they would ever say to another person. The standards applied to the self are harsher. The judgments are more absolute. The forgiveness extended to others is rarely extended inward. This pattern of self-talk is not innate. It is learned, typically in childhood, from the voices that surrounded us. Parents, teachers, and other authority figures provided the template. If you grew up in an environment where mistakes were met with harsh criticism, that critical voice became internalized. If love and approval were conditional on performance, those conditions became embedded in your own self-evaluation. Even if your parents were doing their best with the tools they had, and most were, the impact on your developing psyche remains. The persistence of this critical inner voice into adulthood creates a continuous low-grade stress response. You are, in effect, recreating stressful childhood experiences every time you repeat those critical messages to yourself. The body does not distinguish between external criticism and internal criticism. The stress response is the same. Over decades, this chronic self-criticism contributes to the same negative health outcomes as external stressors. Recognizing that you are not your thoughts is the first step toward changing this pattern. You are the awareness that observes thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. This distinction, once genuinely grasped, creates space between stimulus and response. In that space lies the possibility of choice. You can choose to respond to yourself differently than you were responded to. You can choose to extend to yourself the same compassion you would offer a struggling friend. The ego, from survival tool to saboteur. To understand why self-criticism persists, it helps to understand the ego's original purpose. The ego developed as a survival mechanism. In dangerous environments, and childhood can certainly be dangerous, the ego creates protective strategies. It learns what behaviors keep you safe, what actions earn approval, what thoughts ward off threat. For a child in a difficult home, these ego strategies can be literally life-saving. Dissociation, people-pleasing, perfectionism, emotional withdrawal, these are not character flaws. They are survival adaptations. They served a purpose. They protected you when you had no other resources. The problem is not that these strategies existed. The problem is that they persist long after the original danger has passed. The adult who continues to operate from childhood survival strategies is like someone still hiding from a long-vanished predator. The strategies that once protected now limit. The vigilance that once kept you safe now keeps you anxious. The perfectionism that once earned conditional approval now prevents any genuine satisfaction. The ego, having done its job well, does not know when to stop. This is why ego dissolution is not the goal. The goal is ego integration, understanding what the ego was trying to accomplish, thanking it for its service, and then gently setting aside strategies that no longer serve. The ego is not the enemy. It is a faithful servant that has worked overtime for decades. It deserves acknowledgement, not vilification. But it also deserves to be relieved of duties it was never meant to perform permanently. When you can look at your own defensive patterns with this kind of compassionate understanding, you begin to loosen their grip. You see that the harsh inner critic was once trying to keep you safe by pushing you to meet impossible standards. You see that the fear of rejection was once trying to prevent the pain of abandonment. These strategies made sense once. They simply do not apply anymore. Recognizing this allows you to begin the work of updating your internal operating system. The physiology of connection. Why loneliness harms health. Human beings evolved in tribes. For the vast majority of our species' existence, survival depended on belonging to a group. Being alone meant being vulnerable to predators, unable to hunt large game, and without support during illness or injury. This evolutionary history is etched into our nervous systems. Your body interprets isolation as danger. When you are disconnected from others, your stress response activates. Cortisol rises. Inflammation increases. Sleep quality suffers. Immune function declines. These are not psychological phenomena. They are physiological responses to perceived threat. Your body does not distinguish between being physically isolated from your tribe and being emotionally isolated in a crowd. The perception of disconnection triggers the same survival response. This explains why loneliness has been identified as a major risk factor for virtually every chronic disease. The former Surgeon General's office identified loneliness as the #1 health issue facing our society, with data showing increased risks of heart disease, stroke, dementia, depression, anxiety, and premature death from all causes. The effects of chronic loneliness on health are comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Yet loneliness and being alone are not the same thing. Some people spend significant time alone and feel deeply connected. Others are surrounded by people and feel profoundly isolated. The key variable is the subjective experience of connection, the feeling of being seen, known, and valued by others. This feeling signals safety to the nervous system. It tells your body that you are part of something larger than yourself, that resources are available, that you are not alone in facing life's challenges. The modern world has created unprecedented material prosperity while systematically eroding the conditions for genuine connection. We live in larger homes, but spend less time in shared spaces. We have more ways to communicate, but fewer genuine conversations. We know more about the lives of strangers on social media than we know about our actual neighbors. This is not a moral failing. It is a structural reality. But it has physiological consequences. Rebuilding connection requires intentionality. It means prioritizing face-to-face interaction. It means investing time in relationships even when there is no immediate return on that investment. It means being willing to be known, with all the vulnerability that entails. For a nervous system calibrated for tribal living, these investments are not optional extras. They are as essential to health as nutrition and exercise. The social media paradox and the comparison trap. Social media presents a unique challenge to mental health because it hijacks ancient social monitoring systems. Human beings evolved to care deeply about their standing in the group. Knowing who was powerful, who was trustworthy, and who was dangerous was essential to survival. This social monitoring system operated on real information about actual group members. Social media floods this system with information about hundreds or thousands of people, most of whom you do not actually know, presented in highly curated form. You see the highlight reels of others' lives while comparing them to your own unedited reality. Your social monitoring system, designed to process information about your actual tribe, instead processes information about strangers' vacations, promotions, and seemingly perfect relationships. The result is chronic social comparison that leaves you feeling inadequate no matter how much you have. This is not a character flaw. It is a design feature of platforms engineered to maximize engagement. The comparison triggers dopamine release, keeping you scrolling. But the net effect on well-being is negative. You are left with the feeling that you are falling behind, that others are living better lives, that you are somehow insufficient. The solution is not willpower alone. It is understanding the mechanism and making conscious choices about what you consume. You have the ability to curate your digital environment. You can unfollow accounts that trigger comparison and follow those that educate, inspire, or simply bring genuine enjoyment. You can set boundaries around when and how you engage with social media. You can recognize that what you are seeing is performance, not reality. But these are surface solutions. The deeper work involves addressing why comparison has such power over you. What void are you trying to fill with external validation? What would it mean to feel enough regardless of what others are doing? These questions lead back to the inner work of self-understanding and self-acceptance. The less you need from social media, the less power it has over you. The manufactured nature of modern desires. Much of what people believe they want has been systematically manufactured. Consider the diamond engagement ring, now considered an essential expression of love. This tradition was created by the De Beers Company through an advertising campaign in the early 20th century. Before that campaign, diamond engagement rings were virtually unknown. After decades of marketing, they became nearly universal. This pattern repeats across countless domains. The ideal home, the right car, the perfect vacation, the acceptable career path. These are not organic expressions of human desire. They are carefully constructed narratives designed to channel your longing into consumption. Advertisers, marketers, and media creators have become extraordinarily sophisticated at tapping into fundamental human needs for love, belonging, status, meaning, and attaching those needs to specific products. The result is that people spend their lives chasing things that cannot deliver what they promise. The house does not provide security if you do not feel secure within yourself. The car does not provide status if you do not feel worthy. The vacation does not provide connection if you are disconnected from yourself and your companions. The external achievements, no matter how impressive, cannot fill internal voids. This is not to say that material things are bad or that ambition is wrong. The question is whether you are pursuing what you genuinely want or what you have been programmed to want. The distinction matters because the pursuit itself consumes your life energy. Decades spent climbing a ladder that was placed by someone else, only to reach the top and find it empty. This is a tragedy repeated millions of times. Stepping out of this programming requires examining your desires with honest curiosity. Where did this goal come from? Whose approval would meeting it earn? What would remain if all external validation disappeared? These questions can feel threatening because they challenge assumptions that have organized your entire life. But they are also liberating. They open the possibility of pursuing what actually matters to you, rather than what you were told should matter. Trauma. The universal experience on a spectrum. Trauma carries a stigma that prevents many people from recognizing their own experiences. The word conjures images of catastrophic events, combat, violent assault, natural disaster. But trauma exists on a spectrum, and most people have experienced it at some level. Emotional neglect, persistent criticism, inconsistent parenting, bullying, betrayal. These experiences shape the nervous system just as surely as more obviously traumatic events. The key insight from trauma research is that the nervous system responds to perceived threat, not objectively measured threat. If a child experiences their parents' criticism as threatening to their survival, and for a child, loss of parental love can feel like survival threat, the stress response activates. If this happens repeatedly, the nervous system becomes calibrated for threat detection. It learns to expect danger, to scan for signs of rejection, to respond defensively to neutral or ambiguous situations. This is not a choice. It is not a weakness. It is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt to its environment. If you grew up in an environment where you needed to be vigilant, your brain became vigilant. If you needed to please others to feel safe, your brain became attuned to others' emotional states. If you needed to hide your true self to avoid punishment, your brain learned to suppress authentic expression. These adaptations were intelligent responses to your circumstances. They kept you as safe as possible given the options available. But they become problematic when applied to adult situations where different responses would serve you better. The vigilance that once protected you now creates chronic anxiety. The people-pleasing that once earned approval now exhausts you. The self-suppression that once prevented conflict now prevents genuine connection. Recognizing trauma on a spectrum allows you to take your own struggles seriously without comparing them to others. Your nervous system's responses are valid because they are yours. You do not need to have experienced the worst trauma to deserve healing. You do not need to justify your pain by cataloging your hardships. The question is not whether your trauma qualifies by some external standard. The question is whether your current patterns are serving you. And if not, what might serve you better? The 4 pillars of whole health. Genuine well-being rests on 4 interconnected foundations: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. These are not separate domains, but aspects of a single system. Each influences the others, and neglecting any one creates vulnerability in all. Mental health involves the patterns of your thinking, the stories you tell yourself, the interpretations you make, the assumptions you carry. It includes your relationship with your own mind, whether you are enslaved by your thoughts or able to observe them with some distance. Mental health is not the absence of difficult thoughts, but the ability to relate to them differently. Emotional health involves your capacity to feel the full range of human emotion without being overwhelmed or needing to escape. It includes the ability to experience grief, anger, fear, and joy as passing states rather than permanent identities. Emotional health allows you to be moved by experience without being defined by it. Physical health involves the condition of your body, nutrition, movement, rest, and the absence of disease. But it also includes your relationship with your body, whether you treat it as an enemy to be controlled or a partner to be cared for. Physical health and mental health are constantly communicating through the nervous system, hormones, and immune function. Spiritual health involves your sense of connection to something larger than yourself. This may take religious form, but it need not. It can be connection to nature, to community, to humanity, to the unfolding story of life itself. Spiritual health provides context for your individual struggles and joys. It places your finite existence within an infinite frame. These four dimensions cannot be addressed sequentially. You cannot fix your mental health and then move on to emotional health. They are simultaneous and interdependent. Working on any one supports the others. Neglecting any one undermines all. The goal is not perfection in any domain, but integration across all. Self-love. A practical definition. Self-love is among the most misunderstood concepts in contemporary discourse. It is often imagined as self-indulgence, narcissism, or a kind of spiritual self-absorption. These misunderstandings prevent people from accessing one of the most powerful resources for genuine change. Self-love, properly understood, is the unconditional commitment to your own well-being. It is the determination to treat yourself with the same kindness, patience, and compassion you would offer someone you deeply care about. It is the refusal to abandon yourself even when you make mistakes, even when others reject you, even when life does not go as planned. This kind of self-love has practical expressions. It means speaking to yourself as you would speak to a dear friend. It means setting boundaries that protect your energy and well-being. It means pursuing what genuinely nourishes you rather than what earns approval. It means allowing yourself to rest when tired, to grieve when hurt, to ask for help when struggling. It means accepting your limitations without making them your identity. Self-love also means doing the difficult work of examining your patterns, facing your pain, and seeking the help you need. This is not self-indulgence, it is self-respect. It is recognizing that you deserve to live free from the patterns that have bound you. It is honoring your own suffering by addressing its sources rather than numbing its symptoms. The paradox is that genuine self-love makes you more capable of loving others. When you are not constantly seeking validation, you can offer genuine attention. When you are not depleted by internal conflict, you have energy for connection. When you know what it feels like to be treated kindly by yourself, you can extend that kindness to others. You cannot give what you do not have. Self-love is not the opposite of loving others. It is the foundation for it. Radical acceptance. Seeing what is. Radical acceptance is the practice of acknowledging reality exactly as it is, without denial, minimization, or wishful thinking. It is not approval or resignation. It is clear seeing. Before anything can change, it must be seen clearly. Before any wound can heal, it must be acknowledged. This applies to your personal history. What happened to you happened. The ways you were hurt, the love you did not receive, the support that was not available, these are facts. They cannot be changed by wishing them away. They cannot be undone by blaming yourself or others. They simply are what they are. Radical acceptance means looking at your past with honesty. It means acknowledging the pain without adding layers of interpretation. It means seeing that your parents did the best they could with what they had, even if what they had was insufficient, even if what they did caused harm. Both things can be true simultaneously. They did their best, and their best was not enough. Holding both truths without collapsing into blame or denial is the work of acceptance. This acceptance extends to the present moment. Right now, you are where you are. You have the resources you have. You carry the patterns you carry. Denying these facts keeps you stuck in fantasy about how things should be. Accepting them frees you to work with what is actually present. Radical acceptance does not mean giving up. It means starting from reality rather than from wishful thinking. It means saying, "This is what I have to work with. This is where I am. Now, what is possible from here?" That question cannot be answered honestly without first accepting the truth of your situation. Forgiveness. Letting go of poison. Forgiveness is widely misunderstood. It is not condoning harmful behavior. It is not reconciling with people who continue to cause harm. It is not pretending that the past did not happen or that it did not matter. Forgiveness is the internal process of releasing the hold that past injuries have on your present well-being. The famous saying captures the essence. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hoping the other person will die. The resentment you carry does not affect the person who harmed you. It affects you. It occupies mental space, generates stress chemistry, and keeps you tethered to the past. It is a burden you carry whether or not the other person even knows you are carrying it. Forgiveness releases this burden. It is a gift you give yourself, not a gift you give the other person. It is the decision to stop letting past harm define your present experience. It is the recognition that continuing to carry resentment does not punish the other person, it punishes you. This does not require trusting someone who has proven untrustworthy. It does not require allowing harmful people back into your life. You can forgive someone and maintain strict boundaries. You can forgive someone and never see them again. Forgiveness is about your internal state, not your external relationships. The process of forgiveness often involves understanding the humanity of the person who caused harm. This is not excusing what they did. It is recognizing that they too were shaped by their history, that they too carried wounds, that they too were doing their best with what they had. This understanding does not make the harm acceptable, but it does make it comprehensible. And comprehension loosens the grip of resentment. Love as willing the good. The ancient definition of love, attributed to Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas and echoed throughout philosophical and theological tradition, is this: to love is to will the good of the other. This definition strips away the sentimental associations that have accumulated around the word and reveals something more practical and more demanding. Loving someone in this sense means wanting what is genuinely good for them, regardless of how you feel about them. It does not require liking them. It does not require enjoying their company. It does not require approving of their choices. It simply requires that at the deepest level, you wish for their well-being. This kind of love is possible even toward people who have harmed you. You can will the good of someone who hurt you, want them to find peace, to heal, to become better without condoning what they did. You can want them to change without requiring that change before you release your resentment. Their transformation is not a condition for your freedom. It is simply what you hope for them. This definition also clarifies love's relationship to boundaries. Willing someone's good does not mean allowing them access to you. If someone continues to cause harm, the most loving thing may be to maintain distance, for their sake as well as yours. Enabling harmful behavior is not willing the good of the other. True love sometimes requires saying no. Applying this definition to yourself transforms self-love. To love yourself is to will your own good. It is to want what is genuinely best for you, not what feels good in the moment. It is to make choices aligned with your deepest well-being, even when those choices are difficult. It is to treat yourself as someone whose good you genuinely desire. Seeing the 5-year-old in others. One practical technique for cultivating compassion involves seeing the 5-year-old version of every person you encounter. The difficult person, the one who frustrates or harms you, was once a child full of possibility. That child had dreams, hopes, and an innate sense of wonder. That child did not choose to become difficult. Life shaped them. This is not naivety. It is not ignoring present behavior. It is adding depth to your perception. When you can see the wounded child and the difficult adult, something shifts in your response. You are no longer dealing with a one-dimensional villain. You are dealing with a human being whose complexity includes the ways they have been hurt and the ways they have learned to cope. This perspective does not excuse harmful behavior. Adults are responsible for their actions regardless of their history. But understanding the origins of behavior helps you respond differently. It reduces the personal sting. It reminds you that difficult behavior is rarely about you. It is about the other person's history playing out in the present. The same practice applies to yourself. When you notice your own difficult patterns, your own reactive responses, your own self-criticism, ask, what was happening to the 5-year-old me when these patterns formed? What was that child experiencing? What did that child need that they did not receive? This question opens the door to self-compassion. It reminds you that your patterns are not character flaws, but adaptations to circumstances you did not choose. Seeing the 5-year-old in others and in yourself is not a technique for letting people off the hook. It is a technique for seeing more clearly, and clearer seeing allows for wiser responding. The political divide as mass trauma response. The intense political polarization visible in contemporary society can be understood as a collective trauma response. Groups of people, each carrying their own historical wounds, are reacting to perceived threat in ways that mirror individual trauma responses. The defensiveness, the black and white thinking, the inability to see nuance, the attribution of evil intent to the other side. These are recognizable as trauma symptoms at the collective level. This perspective does not invalidate genuine political differences. People disagree about real issues with real consequences. But the emotional intensity of these disagreements, the demonization of those who hold different views, the inability to maintain relationship across political lines, these suggest something beyond rational disagreement. They suggest activated nervous systems, triggered survival responses, and unhealed wounds. The media environment exacerbates this dynamic. News outlets have discovered that outrage generates engagement, presenting the other side as not just wrong but evil, not just mistaken but dangerous, keeps viewers watching and clicking. This is not conspiracy but business model. And it works precisely because it taps into existing trauma responses. Breaking out of this dynamic requires individual work before collective work is possible. As long as your own nervous system is activated, you cannot see clearly. As long as you are operating from survival mode, you cannot access the higher cognitive functions needed for genuine understanding. The work of calming your own system, healing your own wounds, and developing your own capacity for compassion is not separate from political engagement. It is a prerequisite for wise engagement. When you can see the humanity in those with whom you disagree, not agree with them, not endorse their views, but see their humanity, something shifts. You are no longer fighting monsters. You are engaging with fellow human beings whose history has led them to different conclusions. This does not resolve all disagreements, but it changes the quality of engagement. It makes genuine dialogue possible where before there was only combat. Corporate capture and individual responsibility. The same dynamics that operate at the individual level operate at the institutional level. Corporations, like individuals, develop patterns. They pursue survival. They respond to incentives. They rationalize behavior that would be unacceptable if examined directly. The difference is that corporations have far more power and far less accountability. The pharmaceutical industry provides a clear example. Medications that genuinely help people exist alongside marketing practices that create disease mongering. Research that suppresses negative findings. And pricing that puts life-saving treatments out of reach. The same company that develops a valuable drug may also engage in practices that harm millions. This is not because the people involved are monsters. It is because the system incentivizes certain behaviors, and people within the system adapt. The revolving door between regulatory agencies and the industries they regulate creates structural conflicts of interest. When the head of the FDA can move directly to a pharmaceutical executive position, when industry insiders write the rules that govern their own industry, the appearance, and often the reality, of capture is inevitable. This is not conspiracy, but predictable outcome of certain structural arrangements. Individual responsibility within these systems becomes diffuse. No single person feels fully responsible for outcomes that result from thousands of decisions. Each person rationalizes their participation. I'm just doing my job. If I don't do it, someone else will. The system is too big to change. These rationalizations are the same ones individuals use to avoid examining their own patterns. Holding institutions accountable requires the same clarity that individual healing requires. It requires seeing clearly what is happening, without denial or minimization. It requires recognizing that systemic problems require systemic solutions, not just individual adjustments. And it requires the kind of collective action that becomes possible only when enough people have done enough individual work to see clearly and act wisely. The pharmaceutical industry, a case study in structural issues. The United States and New Zealand are the only two countries in the world that permit direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising. In every other developed nation, drug companies can only market to physicians. The rationale is straightforward. Patients lack the medical expertise to evaluate drug claims and are vulnerable to marketing that creates demand for treatments they may not need. The ads Americans see daily, the happy people enjoying life thanks to some medication, the rapid recitation of side effects, the images of vitality and wellness are designed to create this demand. They bypass medical judgment entirely. They go straight to the consumer, creating pressure on physicians to prescribe drugs that may not be optimal or necessary. This is not accident. It is business strategy. The research enterprise itself has been compromised. Studies can be designed to produce favorable results. Negative findings can be suppressed. Unfavorable data can be buried. Peer review. Once a genuine check on scientific quality, often reviews only what companies choose to share. The full data set, including studies that showed harm or lack of efficacy, remains hidden. The consequences have been catastrophic. Vioxx, a pain medication, was estimated to have caused 60,000 deaths before it was withdrawn from the market. No one went to prison. The company paid fines that were dwarfed by the profits the drug generated. This is not justice. It is a cost of doing business. Yet within these same companies, individual people are doing their best. Scientists developing treatments, marketers promoting products, executives making decisions. Each is caught in the same web of rationalization and incentive. They have families to support, careers to advance, lives to live. They are not monsters. They are human beings adapting to their environment. Holding this complexity is essential. You can recognize systemic corruption without demonizing every individual within the system. You can demand accountability without dehumanizing those who need to be held accountable. You can see the 5-year-old in the CEO while also insisting that the CEO be held responsible for the consequences of their decisions. The power of collective intention. If individual thoughts affect individual bodies, what happens when many people focus their thoughts on the same thing? The logical extension of the mind-body connection is the possibility of mind-to-mind connection, the collective equivalent of individual intention. This is not mysticism. It is the same principle operating at larger scale. Prayer is the oldest and most widespread expression of this principle. Across cultures and throughout history, human beings have gathered to focus intention on shared outcomes. The sick have been prayed for. Communities have prayed for rain, for peace, for protection. The persistence of this practice across cultures and millennia suggests it addresses a genuine human intuition about how the world works. Modern research has produced suggestive findings about the effects of collective intention. Studies on prayer, meditation, and focused attention have shown small but measurable effects on various outcomes. The mechanisms are not understood, but the absence of mechanistic explanation does not negate observed effects. Much of medicine works without complete mechanistic understanding. What is clear is that collective intention changes those who participate. Praying for someone changes the one who prays. Meditating on peace changes the one who meditates. Focusing attention on the good of others shifts your own internal state. And changed individuals, in sufficient numbers, change the world. The practical implication is not that you should abandon individual action in favor of collective intention. It is that both are needed. The inner work and the outer work support each other. The meditation and the activism are not alternatives, but complements. Changing yourself and changing the world happen together or not at all. Practical steps for the second half of life. For those in the second half of life, the work of healing takes on particular urgency and particular possibility. You have decades of experience to draw on. You have patterns that have become deeply ingrained and therefore visible. You have less energy for denial and more motivation for genuine change. The question is not whether to begin, but where. Therapy is the most direct path for many people. A skilled therapist provides the external perspective that is impossible to achieve alone. They see patterns you cannot see. They ask questions you would not think to ask. They hold space for pain that you have learned to avoid. If you have never tried therapy, or if you tried and it did not help, consider trying again with a different practitioner. The fit matters. Meditation and prayer offer access to the part of you that observes rather than reacts. Regular practice builds the capacity to witness your own thoughts without being consumed by them. Even a few minutes daily, consistently practiced, changes your relationship to your mind. You learn that you are not your thoughts. You learn that thoughts pass if you let them. Journaling provides a way to externalize internal experience. Writing about your patterns, your history, your current struggles brings clarity that thinking alone cannot achieve. The act of putting words on paper requires a level of precision that thinking does not. Patterns become visible when written down. Physical practices, exercise, nutrition, sleep support mental and emotional work. A body that is exhausted, inflamed, or malnourished cannot support the kind of sustained attention that inner work requires. Taking care of your body is not separate from taking care of your mind. It is the same work. Connection with others who are doing similar work provides support and accountability. Alone, the work is harder. In community, you discover that your struggles are not unique. You learn from others' insights. You offer your own. The healing happens in relationship, not in isolation. The courage to begin. Beginning this work requires courage. It means facing pain you have spent decades avoiding. It means acknowledging patterns you have carefully denied. It means giving up the comfort of familiar suffering for the uncertainty of genuine change. It means admitting that the strategies that got you this far will not take you where you want to go. The good news is that you are not starting from zero. Every experience you have had, every struggle you have survived, every lesson you have learned has prepared you for this moment. The wisdom you have accumulated over decades is not irrelevant to this work. It is essential to it. You know more than you think you know. you are stronger than you think you are. The work does not require perfection. It requires only willingness, willingness to look, willingness to learn, willingness to try. You will not do it perfectly. You will fall back into old patterns. You will resist what you most need to see. This is not failure. This is the process. Each time you notice yourself falling back, you have already made progress. Each time you return to the work, you are building capacity. The stakes are not small. Your health, your relationships, your contribution to the world, all depend on the inner work you are willing to do. The world does not need you to be perfect. It needs you to be more whole. It needs you to be more present. It needs you to be more capable of love for yourself, for others, for this troubled and beautiful world. The work is possible. People have done it before. People are doing it now. You can join them. You can begin today, where you are, with what you have. The only requirement is the willingness to try. The single most important takeaway from everything we have explored is this: the work of healing your inner world is not separate from the work of extending your years. They are the same work. Your mind and your body are not conversation partners. They are the same voice. And when you learn to speak to yourself with kindness, with honesty, with the compassion you would offer anyone you truly loved, you are not just improving your mental state. You are changing your physiology. You are extending your life. If something in this conversation has stirred a thought, a memory, or a question, we invite you to sit with it. And if you feel inclined, share it in the comments. This is a library. After all, wisdom grows when it is shared. If you would like to continue this exploration, there are other volumes waiting for you in our collection. Subscribe so you do not miss them. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.